Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Hustle Up podcast, dedicated to all those who grind past a traditional 40-hour work week to create the lives that they want to live. My name is Clint,
Jonathan,
and today we are doing a one and done special where we keep the topic to 15, maybe 20 minutes. You know, sometimes they go over, but we take a topic. Today is keys to gaining traction as a young entrepreneur, or keys to gaining traction towards success. So one of the big things is motivation. How do I stay motivated? What am I doing? It's fine to get hyped up and excited about something. One of the quotes that he says is that starting your own business isn't the difficult part. In fact, that's one of the fun parts is when you're starting
that's
out.
when you get all the likes on Facebook.
You got all the you announce to the world, I just quit my job, fuck it. I'm going all in. Everybody's excited for you. But it's after 6 months, a year and a half, 3 years, 5 years, however long it takes, and you're not seeing the results that you wanted. And then that 9-to-5 job starts looking really attractive. Man, $80K a year plus benefits. They got an attractive compensation plan, right?
I've been eating off McDonald's and couch surfing for the last year.
And I had a conversation with Tony. Tony runs ops at Elite, and he has just recently joined the ops team at Storm. And he said, "Isn't that expected for at least the first 3 years? You're eating ramen and." I forgot the brand of hot dogs, but it was some brand of hot dogs. He was saying, isn't that normal? Isn't that expected? And when we're talking about gaining traction, I used to think of it as paying dues to the grind. It's like if you have to do something you don't want to do, it's like this is what it takes to get to where I want to be one day. And then one day, it clicked for me that I've created perverse incentives. Because I care the most, or because I'm the most willing. It's a lot like having a roommate in college who doesn't do the dirty dishes. And so you start doing the dirty dishes. And instead of working on your business, you're working in your business, handling all of the emergencies, the time wasters, the high important, high urgent time distractors that pull you away from your quadrant 1 strategic planning phase. And you start doing things for people that fuck this up, and it ultimately fucks you up. So the key when we talk about keys to gaining traction, deciding that you're not going to be the last stop, and that doesn't mean that things are going to get missed, but it does mean that you're going to implement people in and around your circle that help you get things done. And the key is delegation, right?
Yeah. I think that's a great point. Delegation is a huge piece, but it even takes time to get there. Because at first, let's say you have the big idea, you're starting with that, but you don't necessarily have a team yet. So what are some of the early keys that, even if we just focus on the mindset piece, right? So motivation is huge. Delegation is big at a later stage when you get there. But in this first stage, I think it really comes down to motivation, discipline, and I almost want to say that the third one would be adaptation. To be able to adapt in any environment. Like, for example, right, so with our company, when I started it was a completely different concept, and we've pivoted numerous times, but pivots are hard decisions to make. I mean, for example, every time we learned a new pivot, I had to learn a new market. Austin had to learn about the customers in that market. Zunair had to create new financials every time. And so there's the idea that, but if you don't do that, we wouldn't have made it to where we are now. And so there's a big element of motivation that kicks in, discipline to keep that motivation consistent, because we've seen this many times. People go see Tony Robbins, or people read The Power of Now, or they read these books that show them they can actually do something in the world, and then society brings them back down very quickly.
My favorite one is, I just realized my true potential. It's like, oh, you just realized your true potential. You just realized that. And if it's 2 weeks later, you're not seeing a change. There's this cat in my life. I won't throw out any names, but the first time I met with him irked me a little bit, because he said he was so money focused. And me, I'm problem focused.
Right.
And I just sat there and thought, this kid cares too much. But you know why it bugged me? because I saw myself in him at his age, 18, saw myself 7 years ago. And I thought about it. I sat with it afterward. It's like, anytime something bugs me that much, it's like, okay, what is this a reflection of? What is this? Why is it bothering me? And to this day, that kid has been, it was probably 6 months ago, kid has been grinding day in, day out on that hustle to get to where he wants to be. And I ended up being very proud of him and said, wow, okay, well, that's what we're talking about. That's what we're tapping into. What is he doing differently? I think you said this, I don't know who said it. If you want to be successful, get angry. And it's almost like this anger that you've decided, that embarrasses me. Wherever that was, I don't ever want to be again.
Yeah.
And so by getting angry, by getting mad, and by staying mad, you're pushing yourself into a different realm. Anybody can get motivated for a day. I was talking to Tony about this again today. A fat guy doesn't put on running shoes, put on the running shirt, and go for a run and then become a runner.
Right.
It's about consistency and reps.
Mm-hmm.
And the deal with the mindset and behavior, if you can't change your mindset, change your behavior. Mm-hmm. And if you can't change your behavior, start changing the mindset through inputs and outputs, right?
Right.
And I'm a firm believer that it's one or the other. You either struggle with one or the other. So whichever one you're having an issue with, make consistent. And I think the consistent is more powerful than the dramatic. It's not like you have to make wild, life-swinging moves in one day, right? It's more about building it up, those consistent habits. Running, for example. Mm-hmm. You don't decide that you're just going to go run a marathon unless you're David Goggins, he's sick up here. He's a different breed, right? If you decide you're going to run a marathon and you are out of shape, you start by running 15 minutes a day. You might start with walking. Mm-hmm. You do whatever it takes to get consistent and build that habit and get on a winning streak.
Right.
And then if you break your habit for a day, you don't break it for 2 days or 5 days or 10 days and then fall out. You build up that consistency.
Yeah, and that's David Goggins obviously is an outlier, but that's a great point that you made.
He's a freak.
He's a freak, and you're not gonna be a runner after a week. You're not gonna be a businessman after, I would go as far as to say, a year. It's just
that
not
first year that's gonna be tough.
Yeah, the way I look at it, man, is like in 2016 we got funded, right? And then in 2016 we got funded and it was scattered learning. Then which means I was now CEO of a funded company and I have no job experience. I dropped out of college my last semester to do this. And it's just like, where do you start? So 2016 for me was scattered learning. I was learning about tech. I was learning about mindset. I was learning about being an entrepreneur, learning about the different facets of business. Then 2017 came, and after a year of living in a house and doing nothing but grinding, I was able to focus my learning a little bit more. Still not acting in terms of bringing in revenue and creating profit, but we were learning. So 2017 was more focused learning, so now it was more niche technology. It was more, what are my strengths in business? It was more compound effect and repetition to the mindset element, right? I knew the patterns that were effective. Then 2018 came around and we really started putting things into action. And now 2019 has come around and we've raised our first round, and we're making really good momentum now. But the reason I'm saying that story is because that was, again, you knew my life when we first got funded. I didn't do shit except wake up, learn, and build the company every day for a year and a half, 2 years. And I still don't, I'm still, we're 3 years later now, and I am not where we projected we would be on day one. And I still don't consider myself a businessman, and I put probably on about not 10,000 hours, but I don't know the math, but a lot of time. Like if there's 24 hours in a day, 7 days a week, I was probably working 12 to 15 hours a day if you include learning and all that in for a week every single day for a year and a half. And that's coming from a baseline of zero. So for anyone watching, if you're coming from a baseline of zero and you have no connections, you don't come from money, you don't have experience, and you have just the accrued knowledge that you have from schooling in the past, all you have to give is your time and dedication and discipline.
Think how many companies would bend over backward to get their hands on somebody like you now. No college degree, but years of experience and implementing and doing it. It's like the idea, the old traditional idea, dude, I don't think anybody at higher level management is going to have a traditional college degree in 20, 30, 50 years.
We were talking about this earlier today.
It's the deal. All of your talent is dropping out to go do it.
Yeah.
And get after it and use the power of time working for you at a young age. Think about you said something earlier that sparked the Ben Moore interview, where he said, when I was young, I was grinding to get new tires and go out.
It was a different kind of hungry.
It was a different kind of hungry. Regardless of where your motivation starts, there's a point where it clicks, and you could hear it specifically for Ben. And he's like, I got to get 100 stores. I want stores in every nation. I want to take this thing as far as it can go. And there's a point where you realize, okay, we've experienced some initial success, and I want to see what we can make of this.
Mm-hmm.
This is not, it didn't die in its first year. Congrats. Didn't die in its third year. Fifth year. Congrats. Let's see what we can do with it.
Yeah, there's that point where it's like it's the business version of your mindset going from scarcity to abundance. It's no longer how do we get out of the red, but how do we penetrate the green as far as possible.
5 years and a normal 40-hour work week, and you've put in the 10,000 hours for some level of expert. 2.5 years on an entrepreneur work week, and you've put in your 10,000 hours getting toward that expert level. And I don't have 10,000 hours. I don't know. I don't think I have 10,000 hours setting up tents, but I do have more than 10,000 hours running a tent business now, and will for any other industry that I get into. But consistency, motivation, discipline, adaptation, and then actionable steps. The key to gaining traction is creating actionable steps.
Yeah.
You went through the entrepreneurship program at KSU.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the not the program, the
competition. Yeah.
And one of the big things that I remember them focusing on were key performance indicators, the KPIs. What am I going to do by this date? You've got small and large. How am I going to get from X to Y to Z? And the big thing, it starts with writing down goals, telling your goals to others, and performing actionable steps to get there. It's the same thing as making your bed every morning when you wake up. You're completing a goal, you're working toward a goal.
And check out, for everyone watching right now, check out the Prioritize the List episodes, because Clint really dives deep on that episode. And it's kind of like you're with these daily goals and tasks, and when you have actionable next steps, right? So tip for anyone watching, don't ever leave a business meeting without setting up actionable items to fulfill. Otherwise the meeting, even if it's just let's tail back and communicate in a week, right? Even if that's the only one you get from it, that's fine, but never leave a meeting without actionable next steps. It's the same thing with your life. Never go to sleep at night without having actionable steps the next day.
That's right.
It gives you these parameters to live your life in that are all predicated on these goals that you want to hit.
Yeah.
And when you can set up when you can set up your runway like that, your plane takes off way easier.
Well, think about, we had a conversation with Moses offline, Kai Spector. And he said, I know exactly how much money I'm going to make at 25, at 30, at 40, at 50, and how much is going to be in that account. It's planned. Mm-hmm. Why not do the same thing with your work life? I know where I'm going to be. I know what I'm going to be working on, or a rough idea in order to achieve these goals.
And stay disciplined to them. That's really the kicker is, set your steps up and then take your steps and just keep iterating that over and over. And if you have a plan and an opportunity presents itself, our CEO has a great quote. He always says, a plan is a plan unless an opportunity presents itself. And I mean, that's quite literally what it is. Like if you are going a certain route, and for example, for me, my plan was to graduate college and probably get a sales job somewhere because I'm not an academic, so I have to use my strengths. And then I got a check bigger than any amount I'd ever seen ever in my life, And at that point, that was an opportunity which disrupted my plan. And so I acted on that, and through our key
performance indicators,
through our KPIs, motivation, discipline, adaptation, and was that it? And then one more that you just mentioned, action items.
Yeah.
And through all those
actionable steps.
Yeah.
Writing down your goals. And there's one more thing I want to stress for anybody that's sitting here like, okay, motivation, cool, but how do I find more motivation? There's two things. A, read motivating books. B, write down those goals and make them small. You know, when you hit those small wins, that gives you momentum to build. And third, this might be the most important, get around disciplined people.
Yeah.
If you want to be more disciplined, get around disciplined people.
That comes back to your idea of change your mindset, and if you can't change your mindset, change your behavior. Your inputs equal your outputs. And we say that on almost every podcast, but that's almost quite literally what it could come down to, is what are your inputs, because those are your outputs.
Yeah.
So
it's been a good episode.
Yeah, this has been an awesome episode. We enjoyed talking about this. Comment, subscribe, share to this below. Again, those main KPIs are motivation. Find that motivation, whether it comes intrinsically or whether it comes somewhere else. Find it, hold on to it. How do you hold on to it? You hold on to it via discipline. The more you stay disciplined, the more motivated you are. What does that mean? Well, if you do the third step of setting up action items and you complete those, you have a little release of serotonin in your head that keeps you more motivated. Dopamine. You have a release of dopamine in your brain that keeps you more motivated. So now you're more motivated, you're staying disciplined. Now you have it in a formula by having your goals and to-do lists and action items laid out. And then and then you have in your later stages, you'll have delegation, and then there's other things. Well, this is really a phase one for early entrepreneurs, how to do it via mindset.
We'll do a follow-up on delegation and what it means, what it looks like to stop being the last stop in your business.
Yeah.
It's a great, we'll get into it.
Being the bottleneck.
I'll save it for next time.
Yeah, so we'll do that one too. So again, that's motivation, discipline, adaptability, and setting up action items. Do those 4 things when you get excited and quit your 9-to-5 job or drop out of college to do your entrepreneurship journey, whatever it is. Hold on to those 4 things: motivation, discipline, adaptability, and action items. Always remember your inputs equal your outputs, and a plan is a plan until an opportunity presents itself. So when an opportunity comes calling and it makes sense, kick the fucking door down and make it happen. I'm Jonathan.
Clint.
Spread the message, share the love, and always remember, hustle up!